Da, 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 da. Hey, everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scogle, and you're on the lifeboat. It is the night boat. And you know what, people? Somebody left me a comment. I don't remember what it was because they blend from day to day. But somebody left me a comment that said, can you talk about fear? I really struggle with fear. And you know what? We all struggle with fear at some level. And it's been a hot minute since I did a show on this. This is going to... I don't know. These are theories that, as always, these aren't my theories. These are theories that things I read in books, things that I journaled on, and things that made sense to me. I've read so many different people talk about fear, and the vast majority of them, I think, are just absolutely so far off the mark. Right? The general consensus is this: we have this fear inside of us, right? And it's just this natural thing, and there's nothing you can really do about that because it's tied into the vagus nerve, and there's so much about us that's hardwired for this fear thing, and our body doesn't deal with it well, and this causes problems, right? And this short circuits all kinds of stuff that we do. Sir Stroming, yes, it short circuits all kinds of stuff we do, right? And it keeps us from moving forward in life. We get stuck where we're at in sobriety, or worse, after you get to base camp, after you're sober, it keeps you from moving forward. We're going to talk about this. Fear is completely legit, right? Fear is not the problem. It is the irrational way that we deal with fear that is the problem. Fear is going to happen. However, all of these people that write all of these books about how we cannot do anything about this fear because it's hardwired into who we are. Well, that's just absolute horse crap. It really is. It's horse crap. You absolutely can cope with fear. Take this from a guy that has hopped off cliffs out of airplanes and done all kinds of really stupid things on skis. I have overcome fear, right? I've looked at fear and said, I'm going to do this anyway. I'm afraid of it and I'm going to do it. And that is something that you can build up to. But the problem is most of the stuff that we talk about being afraid of, we're not afraid of. We just don't know how. We don't know the right terminology, and we don't know exactly what's going on in us. And we default to fear as the emotion that we say, well, I'm afraid to do that. No, that's not exactly at all what is going on. You're going to use the term, I'm afraid to do that, because it's a catch-all, right? If somebody, I'm afraid of something, what do they say? Fight through your fear, you wimp, right? We don't get that a lot. So saying I'm afraid of something usually stops people in their tracks. And I don't remember who came up with this, but let's be really honest. When you start to look at fear, what are we afraid of, right? What are we afraid of? There's got to be something, right? In particular, that pick it. There's something in your life right now that you're afraid of. And let's say if you were to use, okay, I moved to Arizona recently. I sold the house in the state that I lived in, and I packed everything up, and I just decided I was going to drive to a state that I had never lived in, and was going to give this a try. I never lived in free. I had lived in the state. I knew the weather. I had lived here incarcerated several times, but I've never done it as a free person. And it was, you come up with all the reasons it's a bad idea, right? I wasn't happy living where I was living. I drove down the street. Hold on one second, people. I seem to have a problem. Sorry. So I'm starting to think, and what you do is you start defaulting to a fear that doesn't exist. What am I afraid of? So I sit down and I get out a pad and a piece of paper and I start to evaluate the things that are making me afraid. Because the most dangerous part of fear is that it makes you disconnect your logic, right? The logic center of your brain turns the hell off. When the fear center of your brain, and this is awful, God awful, if you are in a situation where you need to have your wits about you, right? Which very often happens when we begin to feel fear. Mile High Hokey, thank you so much. This is a very good one here, and it's an excellent example. Zach D says, ever since I became a parent, the fear of dying and leaving them behind has me shook. I go back and forth with my walk with God, and it just has a bad grip on me. Love you, brother. Thanks for everything. All right, Zach D, look, this is a great example. And since it's up here in a super chat, we're going to talk about it, right? When fear starts to creep in, right? Every single parent, by the way, has this fear. This is not unique to you. Every single parent, especially new parents, go through this constantly. Hold on, people. Come on now. I'm terribly sorry that I'm going to have to deal with it after the show. I'm really sorry. I did. Sorry about that. Yep, technical glitches, people. I'm not exactly sure what I did wrong, but I did something wrong. So let's get rid of that thing, because if so, I might touch it. So let's talk about this. I'm sorry, squirrel. So let's talk about this. If you sit down and you start to realistically, so what we do is we look at there's three kinds of fears that most people deal with, whether you realize it or not, right? And one is fear of loss, right? The loss fear, like when you're going to quit doing drugs. I'm going to lose all my friends. I'm not going to be able to relax. It's all of the things that you think that you're going to be missing out on, right? That's a huge part of the fear that we deal with. Another one that we deal with is the process part. We could use the same addiction, right? Well, I'd like to be sober, right? But I'm afraid of the process of getting sober. That's where the fear comes from. And the last one is the outcome of whatever situation that we're in. And you have an outcome fear here. You're afraid that the outcome of your life is going to be that you're going to die early and leave your kids to fend, right? It really technically is something that you need to sit down and start looking at. What is it that you do in life that you feel might make you a faster candidate for death? For real, start looking at like an actuary would. Why is it that you are concerned? There's my guy. Why is it that you are concerned about this? Right? What is it that is driving this? Right? Now, here's the thing. You can say stuff like, well, you know what? I could put a life insurance policy in place. I could do all of these things, right, to displace the fear. And maybe that's not such a bad thing, right? But what is it that you think is going to happen? God forbid. God forbid. The worst possible case scenario happens. I have kids, and I used to do the same thing. And at a very, very early age, I went and said to people, I'd like to talk to you. This is going to be heavy, but I want to talk to you, right? Spanx is the most important thing in my life. And God forbid something happened to me. I would want you to step in and do something about it. And I had that conversation with Johnny. And after Johnny said to me, oh, yeah, in a heartbeat, we'll be kidded tomorrow, right? If something happened, I would become Spank's dad and I would be happy about it, right? In a heartbeat. And then I told my kid at a very young age, God forbid something ever happens, you're going to be with your uncle, right? At the age where I wouldn't tell somebody this at 3, you understand, right? Realistic stuff. But you do understand the concept that we're going to always be looking at fear, at a fear of loss, a fear of process, or a fear of outcome. And if you can sit down and start writing things down, you will be shocked at how fast fear goes away. Fear thrives in 2 environments, right? One is the shadow, right? Fear loves the shadow. If you keep it inside and you do this, it will fester and it will get huge, right? It will absolutely take over your life. Fear loves to be not talked about. It gives it so much more power. Do you know how many times I've said something out loud that I was afraid of and realized that it was ridiculous just saying it? For real. Let me tell you something. I got out of prison, right? And you get home, right? You all of a sudden you're home, and I go and meet this probation officer who tells me I'm a real effing piece of crap the first time he meets me, right? He's not particularly nice, right? And I start thinking to myself, this guy's going to send me back to prison. This dude's goal is to send me back to prison. And I start fearing the loss of freedom and what it means. I'm talking to my kids. I'm doing, I'm the guy I want to be, but I got this guy that can take my freedom away. Of course he can't. Of course he can't. But I worked myself up into that. I hadn't done dope in 7 years. I had nothing to fear. But trust me, people, not only did I fear, but I lost massive amounts of sleep. I lost weight. I got stressed out like you wouldn't believe. And then when I bought this house, I was still on paper, right? My house is for sale. The house I live in is for sale. And when I went to and talked to them, they said, no, if the judge doesn't approve this, you're going to be living in the state till the end of the time that you're on federal paper, which was another year and a half. And this process, I'm just trusting the process. But you know what I do is I write out what happens, carry this through to its final conclusion. Worst possible case scenario, what happens? Worst possible case scenario, this guy says, you know what? You're not moving. Tommy, you're not moving. Screw you, you're staying here. Is it the end of the world? I've carried it through to its final conclusion. What happens if the fear becomes a reality? Is it the end of the world? Zach, you have a faith in God, right? If the unthinkable happens, you will be with your Lord, right? Have some faith. He'll make sure that what happens when you're left behind is all right. And take action. Always when you feel fear, There are two ways that you can do it. You can run away from it. Guess what? You're still going to face it. You'll just be exhausted, right? From all the running. Or you can turn around and face it. Same thing in prison, man. I remember I'm 45 years old, man. I'm too freaking old for any of the prison games and the politics and all of the stupid stuff that you got to do. But I got there and, they said, you down? You down for the white race? I said, look, man, I'm a white guy. If this stuff breaks off and it's some kind of a race riot, then yeah, I'll be with the white guys, right? I would fight with the people that I'm with, right? I would join my car. They weren't particularly convinced. So I was asked to put work in. This means I'm going to have to go fight someone I got no friggin' problem with, right? I got no issue with this dude. I've never met him. I don't know who he is. In fact, right now, he's out there. He's in the ether because I don't even know. They said you're fourth in line, right? So the next 4 people that need their asses kicked in this yard, right? They're going to, when the 4th one comes up, it's you. I said, nah, put me to the next spot. I have to deal with this. So I want to put that fear out there waiting for me. No idea what day it's going to come. No, I'm good. I'll take the next one. Let me know when that one comes up. Let's get it done. Let's put it in the rearview mirror. Face that, deal with it, and move on. Hop out of an airplane, same drill, right? They open up that door and you look down and you go, holy crap. That is a long, long way down. And you think to yourself, I got 2 options. I step out of this thing and I free fall, or I ride back down in shame. Not for the other people, but for me. I got on this damn thing to conquer the fear. All right, I'm walking out that door. All of those, the fear and all the other stuff, I'll deal with it when the adrenaline kicks in and I start falling. But I promise you, I'm going out that door. You can face fear head on, or you can run away from it. If you think running away from it means you don't face it, I promise you it doesn't work that way. The day's coming where you'll face your fear. And when you do, you're going to go, oh my God, I cannot believe that was it. That was it. That was all I was worried about, right? You know what, Huckleberry, it would be hard. And that happens all the time. I'll tell you what else was hard. Huckleberry makes by the way, I met Muhammad Ali, and he was one of the most unbelievable people I ever met. That's the truth. He was a very, very unique individual. I'm white. My kids aren't. I couldn't pick a race and live with myself. I'd never make it in prison. You know what? What you do is you lie. That's exactly what I did. I mean, if I was honest, you know what I was going to say? If this thing breaks off, I'm not going to be here. I don't care about any of this, right? Your politics and all that BS. You know whose side I'm on? My kids. Right? I'm over all this. I'm not a criminal anymore, man. Like, unfortunately, I figured it out after I got here, but I'm not a criminal anymore. So if you guys start to do the race riot thing, I'm gonna find a place to be other than here, because my best friend's black. What am I gonna do? Right? Honestly, we talked about it once. And he said to me, if there's a race riot, bro, I'm tackling you. And the 2 of us are going to roll around until the cops pull us apart. And I thought, you know what? That's not such a bad call, right? You just tackle me and roll. This was something that 35 years sober. Congratulations, my man. Good stuff. Hey, Tommy, what is your take on the monthly shot you can get as opposed to the Suboxone every day? I've been on subs for a while, and my doc brought it up to me. It's super expensive. It's like $3,000 a month. If your insurance paying for it, get on it. It's a better program. For obvious reasons, you don't have to take it. So if you do not take a drug in the morning to control an addiction, you'll forget you have it. That will change your life. I promise. The fact that every day you don't have to take a symbol and put it in your mouth, right? Because that's what that becomes. I'm down to so little of it that at this point it's a symbol. I take so little of it, it's a symbol, and I need it. I need the symbol, and I don't like. I'm not going like this in the morning. Sometimes I forget, and I got to take it at 5 o'clock if I'm really busy. $800 a month in Canada. Well, oh, socialized medicine. Yeah, here it's about 3,600. Oh wow. I used to get Oreos from Sonny Liston when I was 5. Do you know how much I believe that? Until the very last time that I did anything with him, he loved kids. Like, he loved kids. You went to his house, and his wife used to say that the kids in the neighborhood would come over and knock on the door and ask if he could come out and play. Like, and this was right till the end of his life. He was just somebody that really dug kids. Very, very, very funny guy and great with kids. The shot is a better program. It is, to me, to absolutely no 2 ways about it. But people, I really want you to think about this fear thing. I really do. We have the capacity as addicts to build up things in our mind to 500 times bigger than they are, right? I've told the story on many of my fear shows in the past. I got a letter from my probation officer, right? And it said, cruise down, and please check. I mean, you have to come in and see us, is basically what he said. I need to see you Monday morning, right? Crack of dawn. I want to see you when my office opens on Monday morning. I can't call him. I get this thing on a Friday. I can't make a phone call to the dude. So I got 3 days of sitting around with this thing in my hand, trying to figure out what in hell they could possibly want me for. Now, where do you think my brain went, people? Huh? Do you think it went to, hey, Tommy, maybe he wants to kick you off probation early. Maybe he wants to tell you that when you were paying all of your fees and fines, you paid too much and they're going to send some of it back. No, that's not where your head goes, right? That's not where your head goes. This is huge. James pretty much nailed that, right? Suboxone makes you stop thinking about the dealer, right? The shot makes you stop even thinking about the Suboxone, right? Because you only do it once a month, so you never have to think about anything. And if you really want to go that route, what most of the people do is try to find a doctor that will squeeze some of it into the sink, the second shot, because they're giving you 300 milligrams is what comes in that. That's a lot of Suboxone, right? To bleed out into you over the course of a month. And it's probably more than you need. So there are doctors, and I've talked to a guy in California at length who is down to taking very small amounts of the shot because his doctor will squeeze more than half of it now into the drain because he's been doing it long enough. I do Droosh Marush. I invite people to come on to my show. Send me an email, sober@myyahoo.com. We'll talk about your story, and I do bring people on all the time. So that is something that I do. People, this question for addicts is different than for others. Because of what we do, we build up the worst possible case scenario always. Why? Because it's been our life. Because it's always been the worst possible case scenario. If the cops were going to come and arrest me, I got arrested, right? If I was doing something, eventually I was going to get caught, right? Eventually I was going to get an infection and end up in prison. Like, it was always the worst possible case scenario was down the road. It was always coming. And the reason it was always down the road and coming is because I didn't turn around and fight the fear that I had, which was the process fear and the loss fear of addiction. You understand? When your brain goes to fear of loss, you got to go, oh, what's the gain? What's the gain? I'm getting ready to move, and the fear of loss is going. Every single person you know is in this town. Your business connections are in this town, right? You know your way around. You don't have to learn anything in this town. You know, and I'm going through all these things, right? Those are what I'm going to lose. Why would I not think about what I could gain? And I was talking to Johnny, and he said to me, you're going to drive down the street and you're never going to see someplace you did dope. Wow. That's a gain, right? Suddenly the losses seemed a little bit less important. He said, you're going to go to a state where you've never been arrested, right? There were things that made this really beautiful. You were going to go to a state where you truly get your new shot. Right? I told the world about my past, and I told the world I started over, but I started over in the exact same place. And yeah, the upside was so much better. Oh, there's a pool. That was nice. I mean, there's upsides, but the fear of loss can keep you from looking at the upsides, or the fear of process. Oh my God, I got to pack this up, right? And I'm doing it alone. I'm going to have to pack up a house alone. This is going to be a process, right? There's a lot of heavy stuff that I'm going to be moving. It's going to be, that was an issue, right? But the fear of it. So when I decided I was doing it, and we decided this is it, I'm going to sell this house. You know what I did? I went and bought boxes. Like, I didn't wait. I was like, let's start throwing crap in boxes and taping it up now. We're doing this. Let's start taking stuff off the walls. Let's shove the chips into the center of the table and list this baby tonight, right? The upside of all of these things, right? We're afraid of getting sober because what it was going to take, the upside, I got my kids back, right? I got my relationship with God back. I got my family back. I got back everything I lost in spades. Instead of having an entire society of people who think I'm a dirtbag, I got a fairly decent sized chunk of people who listen to advice and try to learn from mistakes that I made. I won the lottery, right? But I didn't win the lottery by running from everything I was afraid of. I won the lottery by facing every single one of those fears. For real. What do you think the first show was like? Huh? How you doing? I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, right? I'm a heroin addict and a bank robber. How do you think that video was? Think that one was fun to make? The people that just got here, man, I've been doing this for 3 years. You get very, very comfortable about talking about your mistakes, right? But they weren't comfortable in the beginning. I had people sending me emails every single day saying to me, hey, man, you don't have to share what you're sharing, man. Really? If I didn't, what do you think the trolls would have done? They would have shared with you what I was sharing, and you guys would have gone, this guy's a dirtbag, man. He didn't tell us any of this. Why didn't he tell us this? That's how it works, right? So I just said, here, check it all out. Look at it. You don't like me? Go away. You got two choices. You can face your fear or you can run from it. How do you run from it? Keep doing what you're doing. I promise. We all do it. We all do it. How many of us procrastinate? Do you think you procrastinate because you're lazy? You don't. Process fear. No joke. It's process fear. It's the fear of sitting down and saying, I'm going to do this. Going out and getting the address so that people can now mail us stuff. Took years because we were just afraid to pull the trigger, right? But this year for the boat was different, right? This was the year that I said, I'm going to get so far outside of my comfort zone, man, I'm not going to be able to find it with a roadmap. Right? I'm writing to every damn content creator on earth. I'm hitting up anybody that I think I have my message can get a little further out because of you. I probably reached out to you. Right? Was it comfortable? Probably not. Right? You got to get outside your comfort zone. To do that, you have to get outside your comfort zone. But see, I knew what the end result. I knew when I go through the outcome fear and I go through the process fear and I go through the loss fear, I go back and go, all right, what are the gains? What can I do to make the process easier? And what could the outcome of this be? Because it could get there. And you know what it could be? I could be a laughing stock and 6 people could watch my channel, right? For the rest of my time on this planet. And then I started going, yeah, but if those 6 people stayed sober, did I fail? Not for me, man. I wasn't worried about the outcome anymore. So when people go, this or that about the channel, look, people, you know what? For real, like we never thought this was going to be a success. We never thought there was going to be more than 8 to 10 people that ever showed up here. So this is gravy. And when people say stuff like, you should be doing this, or this, we're getting there. We're pretty happy. We're pretty happy with where we're at. We wanted to help 6 people. That was the original goal, is to save 6 people. And if we could do that, we were going to try to save 6 more. Right. And again, help someone to help save themselves. Give somebody the tools necessary to save themselves. The idea being, if you're scared, put a pen in your hand and get a piece of paper out. Because the attacking, the fear, starts by writing down why you're afraid. Right? It's so funny because I get people that reach out to me with crippling fear. I get people who reach out to me who can't leave the house, right? It's real. And you sit down and you start talking to people and you start working through it and you say, articulate this for me, right? Please. I'd like you to explain to me how this fear takes shape. What is it you're afraid of? Do you know how often someone can tell me what they're afraid of? Truthfully. I mean, you can give me the sentence, right? I'm afraid of losing my job, right? Someone can give me the sentence. Okay, that's the fear. Yeah. Where do we go from that? All right, you're fired. You're fired. Afraid of losing your job? You're done. You're fired right now. Seriously. Calling your boss, telling him you do drugs with me, whatever. You're done. You just got fired. Where do you go from here? Worst case scenario, you're done. What? Are we taking our lives? What are we doing if that job is lost? Is that the end of it? Are we going to take our lives? What are we going to do? For real? Hop off a cliff? A bridge? How are we going to take ourselves out if we lose? Obviously, you're not taking yourself out if you lose your job, right? It's stupid. Sounds ridiculous saying it, right? Then what are we so afraid of? Maybe a better gig, right? How's the upside? Maybe a better gig. Maybe you get paid more. Maybe you got more responsibility. Thank you, Z-Dub, right? Never thought the upside, right? People don't look at the upside. We're afraid of loss. Loss plays in our head all day long. I'm not going to make enough money, right? I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. This will happen. That will happen. And it's always something being taken away, right? Fear is that we're going to lose all of this great, right? And it's almost always in a situation where it's one or the other. right? Because I'm so afraid of taking a new job. I'm going to lose the security that I've got at this one. I know what to do here. I could be doing it, blindfolded. That's what I'm so right. So what I'm hearing is you're bored. This thing doesn't challenge you in any way, right? You've probably leveled out in the place if you're bored doing what you're doing. Maybe you need a change of environment, right? I got news for you. Change is the only thing on this planet that is exciting to me. I don't do drugs anymore, right? I'm not hopping out of airplanes. I'm not extreme skiing anymore. What am I doing? To me, change is exciting. The fact that I do not know where the lifeboat is going to be in 3 months, I know it's going to be bigger, but I don't know where it's going to be in 3 months. I guarantee you I'll be sitting here. But that's exciting as hell, people. That every day I get a call from somebody or I get an email from somebody that says, you know what? I got a project that I'd like you to think about doing, right? I had 4 of those calls or emails today from people that, and you know what? Years ago, I'd have been terrified. Terrified. What if I go on there and make an ass of myself? What if I go on there and I'm going on there to tell people I'm a bank robber. You know what I mean? Like, what if everybody turns on me? Well, what's the other option? Huh? I'm going to live with the knowledge that I might have been able to help somebody, but I did nothing about it. How's that for loss? Huh? Start looking at what the real potential for loss is. Worried about changing for that other job? Maybe that job was the one you were born for. Maybe that company was meant to change the world and isn't going to do it without you. You can't tell, right? There's no way to know. Of course not. There's never a way to know. But if all you look at is the downside of every single thing that causes you fear, trust and believe you're never going to find out anything. Fear cripples. Fear paralyzes. Fear freezes. You know what? Make a mistake. Straight up, go make a mistake. Hit record. All of you that have sent me emails, really thinking of starting the YouTube channel, get on it. How do I do it, Tommy? You hit record, right? Film a bad video. Send it to me. I'll tell you if I think it's good or not. I really will. You know what? I went and checked him out, Sweet Tea, based on somebody else's suggestion. And you know what? I got nothing against the cat at all, and I think that, but I don't think that the two of us would jive together on film. I think we have a kind of a different. He does his is an entertainment channel, like purely, and because of that, the audience that they tend to bring in are people that really dig prison talk, and I don't do a lot of it. And the other thing is, just being real, that guy faked his own kidnapping, right? Beautifully, by the way. And then he came on and told everybody how much money he made doing the clicks, right? Which is funny, isn't it? It is. It's funny. Until they find a friend of yours 5 days later in his apartment. So while he was missing, right? While our friend who created content, right? We all remember Doug. While all of that drama was playing out and it was being funny and then they're coming on and joking about it, we actually knew a content creator that disappeared. Right. And people were trying to find him and everyone started doing the same thing. You think he's faking this for views or whatever? And the guy was laying in his bed. So that one kind of, yeah. And I don't know. It's if you're doing that kind of content, but I'm not. So, and however you get paid, like even the guys that troll me, right? I don't care. I really don't. Do what you do online. But this is what I do. This is pretty much my thing. It's not a shtick. What I do really is kind of what I do. I chime in on true crime because I can bring more people here to hear about maybe trying to live a better life. I think there's so much content that gets created now that for the longest time, this was a cesspool. Let's be really honest, man. I mean, this has been a cesspool, not just the big red button, but everything like the net. And it's coming around. Like long form is becoming a type of content that more people are creating. And there are so many more people doing it in live, right? Because this is connection, right? I connect with 137 people at the same time who also connect with each other in chat. And I start getting to the point where I don't care what someone's doing. If they're doing it live and people can go and like find connection. If somebody can go and say, hey, I'm having a really bad day, right? Or I'm afraid of something. Because if you actually talk fear out, it goes away. I promise it does. Take this from a guy that talks to a psychiatrist and a counselor and a therapist, right? Every single week. It goes away. If you talk about your fears, it goes away. There you go. Raise your hand if you've had a long discussion recently with somebody about your deepest fears. I see no hands going up because we don't talk about our fears, do we? If you're not going to talk about your fears, okay, I get it. We're not trained to do that, right? We're not raised to do that. It's a very uncomfortable thing to talk about your fears, right? We're trained not to. Don't want to tell anybody your fears. They're going to look at you and go, what a wimp. You're afraid of what? Dude, I'll tell you fear I was in bad. If your fear is causing you problems, it's legit in your head, isn't it? It's very legit fear in your head if it's causing you problems. However, I love this. I love this. I love this. The perfect case scenario is having a partner that you can talk to about your fear. I'm not going to lie to you, man. You won the lottery. That would be lovely. And that is the best case scenario. That is the yes. Yeah, he's definitely negative love. But if you really want to see dirt on me, he seems to have an awful lot of fun tearing me up. Fear is a terminal disease. It absolutely can be, Deborah Rivers, but it doesn't have to be. But it doesn't have to be. Squirrel is the perfect partner. Make no mistake. But she never gives me any feedback. I talk to her about all of my fears. Squirrel hears everything. She just doesn't give much feedback. I shouldn't say that. She gives feedback all day. I just don't know that I understand any of it, right? I need to work on my cat. Yes, I have that procrastinating disease. I admit sometimes it's laziness. I can be truthful about that. I promise you, the research on this will tell you that it very rarely is laziness. I promise. Like if you look this up, and I encourage you to research the crap out of this, but they will tell you that fear is, procrastination is fear driven. We fear the process of what it is. Now, housework, things like that. Everybody does that. We put stuff off because there's something else we should be doing. But the stuff that we procrastinate, like when you got a deadline, right? You got a project that you need to get done by X period of time, right? And you're not starting it. It's fear. It always is. It really is. It always is. Marissa, I love that. I don't have any. My heart has no room for hate of any kind. It does. I don't know. It's an ugly thing, right? I'm gonna have Spanx look some stuff up. I don't think we'll be able to get it in here today because it's a little bit harder to shag. But there is a really amazing study that was done where they exposed ice crystals, water as it's freezing, ice crystals, to negativity and positivity, and photographed it. And one looks like a mud puddle, and one looks like a crystal cathedral. It is one of the most unbelievable things you've ever seen. And you start saying to yourself, if negativity can do that to a freaking ice formation, what could it do to a human being? I don't know, but let me tell you something. I left the most negative place on earth. I left a place where even the people you hang out with hate you, right? Everybody, it's just it is a place of hate. Prison is not a pleasant place to be. And I was there for a really long time. And I went from that to this, right? I went from that to people saying, you know what, I love you. Or you really helped me, or the boat saved my life. I don't know if you can imagine the shock of going from that to this. I promise you. And watch me in the beginning. Go back and watch early Lifeboats and watch just how great I did with somebody telling me they liked the show, right? I really, really had a problem trying to deal with this, right? I didn't know what success was, right? I really didn't. I had made money, but I'd never been successful in anything because I short-circuited myself with dope. Even if I was making a ton of cash, I was always getting high the entire time. I didn't know what success was. This is successful. This channel was successful and it had 6 people, right? I felt this channel was successful in the first 2 weeks. We had such a great group of people that showed up at the very beginning. And if they didn't, I don't know. I'd like to think I would have kept doing it, but I probably wouldn't have. I mean, I think that there are days where any one of them could have missed a day and I probably wouldn't be doing it now. But I was afraid of doing this. I was terrified of doing this. I promise you, this is the most frightening thing I've ever done. And I've robbed banks, right? This is the most frightening thing I've ever done. And I'm not saying that it's going to be for you. But you got to understand who I am. In order for me to do a show, you're not going to have to come out and say, I started my life of crime when I was this old. I started lying to people when I was this old. I started cheating on my mates when I was this old. I started, right? All of the things that to do the show that I did that I knew I was going to have to come out of. There was no way around it. It's vicious, right? People just love to tear you down. And if you don't lay it all out there, I mean, now they can tear me down from my past. Knock yourself out, man. You think you're going to tear me down from my past more than I did? Well, I've gotten over it. I forgave myself. So no one's going to tear me down more than I did before I got to that point. I promise. Knock yourself out. And the really funny thing is, none of the stuff anyone says is true. That's the other fun part of putting your entire past out there. They can't hit you with anything real, so they just got to make crap up. Use a lot of expressions like, in my opinion. They're very good at getting away with things because when you say, in my opinion, you can say anything afterwards. Sadly, that's the truth. But you know what, people? The fear of people trying to write you letters and send you hate mails and death threats and all of it, right? Every single thing that I promise you, I don't care what comes down the pike anymore. The best thing that ever happened to me was the ultimate fear in my life. I kicked the crap out of. I was more afraid of sobriety than I was death. 10-1. I was more afraid of sobriety than I was of anything on earth, right? This is a rule, by the way. We have a rule. Rule 4 on the lifeboat is mean people suck. We have 4 simple rules, right? And 4 is mean people suck. And if you're mean, we just get rid of you because we absolutely 100% agree with you. In a dark place because my wife wants a separation, but everyone here has been truly amazing and it gives me hope of not being alone. Well, let me tell you, there's a big difference between a separation and a divorce, right? I have found this. And I have seen marriages come back from things you would not believe. It requires an unbelievable amount of communication. If she does not want it back, I've gone through two divorces. Neither of them were particularly pleasant. And they were horrendous. But do you know what? I'm happier today than I've ever been in my life. And I'm sitting here telling you this, right? I got one of those divorces. Well, the letters for that divorce in the shoe on solitary confinement 7 days after being stabbed and life flighted off the yard. Dope sick, kicking heroin. But I sat down with a piece of paper and said, she's gone, right? What are my options? I can try to win this woman back. No, that was not one of the options. Now, it may be for you. And if it is, communicate. I've got time invested in this. There's nothing in the entire world I want more than to try to make this work. There's nothing I won't do to try to do that. Let's go see a counselor. Let's go do whatever we got to do. And let's talk about this. I swear to you, I've never seen a relationship that the problems didn't come back to the fact that the two people can't talk to one another and communicate. If you communicate, there's not much you can't get through. Karen, thank you so much, by the way, for the super chat. I don't say that enough. I always read them. Thank you all for the support. It has been amazing. Amanda, I have been divorced since 2015. 2015 or 2016 is when it was filed. Yeah. So a while. Self-forgiveness is the best. You're absolutely right. And I have forgiven myself for going to prison. I've forgiven myself for all of the things, but all of it hinged on me overcoming my ultimate fear. You're here because I overcame my ultimate fear, right? My kid is producing this show and one of my best friends on planet Earth because I faced my greatest fear. Sobriety was my biggest fear. And I did not believe after 30 years, I was capable of living on this planet without a drug, without being sedated if I was awake, right? I needed to be sedated if my eyes were open. And that's how I lived for 3 decades. I was terrified of what it was going to mean to have that gone. It got me through so many ridiculously horrible things. It had been my best friend for so long. And the loss, the fear of loss, and the fear of the process, and the fear of the outcome, all of it. See, my entire life, I had this awesome excuse for why I was a failure. Yeah, I'm a drug addict. I mean, I got a lot more done than any other drug addict you ever met, right? For real. For a guy that had a dope, like a stone cold dope fiend, I was the most productive stone cold dope fiend on earth. I was. Believe that. I was still a dope fiend, but I was a really, really productive dope fiend. Wasn't successful, by any stretch of the imagination. But I got to a point on where I realized that if I could overcome that one fear, everything comes back. The upside. I met a guy who made me realize that the fear of loss had an upside. I was selling out all the gain because of the fear of loss, right? I was selling out heaven because of the fear of the process. What, 7 days? 7 days of being dope sick and 6 months of not sleeping right? That was it. 30 freaking years for 7 days of dope sick and 6 months of bad sleep. That's the process, people. That's all that took. That was the process for the dope sick, right? Then I had to learn who I was. Was it a process? You bet. Was it painful? Yep. Wasn't pleasant at all. Went through a lot of bad days. But I had people who wanted to help me get through it. I had people who are my sobriety family, the people that make up my sobriety family, my brother Q, right? My brother Johnny. Alan Ballantyne is such a huge part of my sobriety today. My kids, right? I have a support team in place that there's not a friggin' chance of me doing dope. You know, they tell you never say that. As an addict, you never say that. You never say you're not going to do it again because I'm never doing this crap again. It's not a chance in hell. I'd rather die. I'm so content with the life that I have today. And the incredible thing is, I was just freaking scared of it. Fear kept me from doing what I'm doing right now for 20 some odd years, not 30. Because when I had been a heroin addict about a decade, I pitched somebody on this idea. There wasn't really a YouTube or anything like that, but pitched the idea of the fact that, you know what? I could tell you how to not do dope. I could tell you how to stay sober. I just got to get off this crap, and I can't. But I pitched that 10 years into my addiction and then did dope for 20 more years. Fear will paralyze, right? Fear will cripple, and fear will freeze. You will not go anywhere in your life. And I'm here to tell you that that's fine and dandy for people who aren't sober. You know, for people who've never been a drug addict. But if you're a drug addict, you're either moving forward or you're in relapse. Sorry, that's the way it is. It says the man who ate Systroming that had been left in a desert for 30 days. Let me tell you the fear of grabbing that thing and taking the first pull. All BS aside, you want to talk about the fear of taking that first pull. I knew what the outcome was going to be. The outcome was that video brings in subscribers. Plain and simple. I don't do it because I like the taste of the stuff, I assure you. My sound is amazing lately. We have a whole new everything. And I have a producer. Okay? I have Spanx Calhoun. I don't know what I'm doing. My kid does. So that's a real plus. I now have a mixer, kind of a setup on the other side of the glass, which I had in the early days with Mark Wages. Now my kid has stepped up to the plate. 10 months, Calhoun, 11 months. Where are you at? I believe he's 10 months sober, which is really awesome. You know, that was a huge thing. Yeah, the Systroming's pretty rugged. And Systroming that has been left in a desert for 20 some odd days in the sun gets a little bit more gank. That video is worth watching if you've never seen that. That is 3 days after your birthday. Okay. So we're going to be coming up in a year here, people, in February. He was testing me to see if I still remember when his birthday was, because he's a bit of a Weissenheimer. But 24th. It is Spanks is how I always spelled it, but you can spell it any way you want. He'll answer either, but it usually has a K. And I told the story of how that happened. That story's been told on the boat a couple of times. It's out there somewhere, the Spanx Calhoun story. It's probably on a video that I did with him. I've done several interviews with my son. So there are interviews out there with Mike. Which, let me tell you something. 1,400 videos, probably one of the scariest ones I ever did. I was interviewing my son. Right? If you were a drug addicted dad, you want to interview your kid, right? In front of the world. That one scared the hell out of me. I live in Arizona and he lives in Utah. So we do not live nearly close enough. But stay tuned. Stay tuned. Spanx will be uprooting his home and doing a move here pretty soon. So stick around. Tommy Bird says, my birthday is the 17th. Don't find too many Aquarius people around. Well, Spanky is very, very close to the 17th. 4 days off. He's going to V. That's how it's going to go down. So he's definitely going to be doing that. That's and we're fired up about that. It's going to make for it's certainly going to help the boat. And I'll be honest, you know how long I've been talking to him about this? People, when I say that I faced the fear and I did all of this, I was telling Spanx when this boat was 21 days old that I was going to have him coming and working with me. And I'm telling you, people, I write things down. I make lists. If something scares me, I disassemble it. I write down what the hell it is that's scaring me, and I write down why it's scaring me, right? Barbie, he can do. What I do is I turn my computer over to him, just like you do with the computer geek people that if you need your computer tuned up or whatever. So I get on the computer, I turn the entire thing over to him. I'm hands off. He's doing all of it, and which is a lot better because my hands are too big for any keyboard. Right? I got Andre the Giant's hands. Yeah, they're so. When I go to hit things, these fingers will hit like 3 or 4 buttons at the same time. It's all bad. It's all bad. Calhoun, I said you were 4 days off, right? I nailed it. Are you surprised? I went yard. I don't miss my kids' birthdays. I'm good at that. But do you know what? To my son's credit, he's excellent. He doesn't miss my birthday. He doesn't miss Father's Day. He always reaches out to me, which is awesome. Which is really awesome. It's rugged when you have to call home on Father's Day from inside prison. That was always one of the worst days, right? Because you don't want to call on Father's Day, but you're a dirtbag if you don't, right? And it's like you're calling to ask for hey, tell me happy Father's Day and what a good dad I am, right? As you're standing there and there. I am a Cancer too, Holly. I am a Cancer too. Karen, you and I could kick it. I cannot turn on my iPad. But that's why you have kids, because your kids are always so much better at all of these things. And now I've got both of them working, round the clock for the lifeboat. So taking a lot of pressure off their old man, which is lovely. I love this. That's literally what I do. I don't know that I've ever put it that way, but that is literally what I do. I deconstruct the fear. You write down why it is you're afraid. Take the fear out to its final conclusion in every direction. What happens if the worst possible case scenario comes through? Run that out in your head to its final destination. Okay. What happens? Then let's try the other, because we always go to the worst possible case scenario, right? It is what we do, but we don't think to ourselves, well, then what would I do? Right? The worst possible case scenario is I'm going to get fired from work. I'm going to lose my job, right? Okay. If that's the worst case scenario, let's cope with that. If you were to lose your job, what would you do? Well, I'd have to start going and looking for work. Okay. Do you have a resume? No. Okay. Well, then put the resume together now. Right? If this is your fear, start doing stuff to cancel the fear. There's always action that can be taken. Right? Fear of losing your job. Okay. Get a resume. Have it ready to roll. In fact, if you think maybe things aren't great there, maybe start shopping around for that next gig before you lose the one you're in. You could sit there and cower for the next 3 months about losing a job, or start looking for a new one while you're worried about losing this one. And proactive instead of reactive, it's a beautiful concept. It really is. It's a beautiful concept. You can attack crap, or you can sit around and wait for it to come to you. Johnny, this is my brother's motto for life. And you've never met anybody like my brother, right? Honestly. I've told so many of these stories on here, but Johnny Scoville is the real deal with the L, for real. He said, I'm going to run a marathon. My brother had never run 6 feet in his life. He said, I'm going to run a marathon. He's not a runner. He had to go buy running shoes. And within, 100 days, he was in another country. He trained at sea level and ran this in Siberia. But he finished the marathon less than 100 days after he said he was going to start training for one. He's a circus freak. But he finds fear. He looks at it and he says, I'm not stopping until this is over. And he's done that with everything he ever did. The reason he did it, Barbie, is, and you know what? He's going to be mad at me for, oh, see, I didn't even know he was here. He did it to raise money for a charity. And he would have had to do it in that window or there was no other opportunity. And being a person that had never run ever, finding people to sponsor him per mile seemed really easy. So people looked at him and went, "You're going to run a marathon? Yeah, I'll sponsor you per mile." Because nobody thought he'd make 4 of them. I didn't. Until I saw him training. I played golf one day on an 18-hole course in Texas. And I watched him run for 4 hours. And he was going around the entire track. And the guys I was playing with was like, "Boy, dude, your brother." I was like, "Yep." And he did it. And then he trained at sea level. And then went and ran at like 12,000 feet or something. It was absolutely ridiculous. It's one example. I'm telling you, people, when you sit down in front of 25 or 30 things that are going to burn you so badly, you have no idea. And you know what? They're not done burning when you swallow them. They're going to hurt your stomach. You're going to have cramps that many, many famous chili head women have said is worse than childbirth. And I've never done childbirth, but the closest I've come to putting a 10 on anything in my life is cap cramps. The worst pain that I have ever had on planet Earth, the closest I've ever come to saying something was a 10, was from capsaicin cramps. And he does it every single day. How do you do it? You face it, right? You face that crap straight on and you attack it. I'm not made of that, but I promise you I'll attack my fears. And I'll go burn with my brother. Like, I'm due for a good one because people get really happy when they see me burn. George Harrison is late February. I did not know that. I was a huge George Harrison fan. Loved them. Oh yeah. If you've never watched my brother on Chase the Heat, my brother burns himself every single day. That's what he does. If you have to ask your kid for computer help, remind them you taught them to eat with a fork. Hear that, Calhoun? Yeah. And tie your shoes. That's right. And go to the bathroom. Yep. And I'll tell you what, I changed a lot of his diapers too. JD from Philly. Look, people, listen up. You got a story that you want that you think the boat would benefit from hearing, and you're ready to tell that story, right? And you're comfortable, because I promise you, people, that's a thing. Think about it before you say yes, because there are people that have sat here for these interviews that afterwards thought, "Boy, that was a lot harder than I thought it was." But nobody has ever said that it was not cathartic, that they did not feel better after they did it, right? Look, all joking aside, 5-1. 5-1. I changed a lot of diapers, I promise you. 5-1. It's yeah. Has anyone not seen Johnny Scoville eating 10 Reapers whilst skydiving? The Spanx Calhoun. And you know what? That is a really rugged one, man. Yeah, you want to talk about knocking out some fears? Just do it all at once, right? Drop through the air at terminal velocity, necking Carolina Reapers as fast as you can. You haven't seen it. Somebody put up the link to Chase the Heat so that everybody can find my brother. You know what's really, really funny? It's never gone that way, people. You should all do that for me, because it's always been this way, right? The flood of people have always come from Chase the Heat over to the lifeboat. It would be just nice to send a few over that way. That might be nice. Calhoun, You said it. All right, people. All right, reach out to me then. If you have that, if that's in you and you feel like you absolutely have that inside and that you need to get that out. I know what that feels like. So if you need to get that out, send me an email and we'll talk. Okay. Hey, Zach, I'm glad you're here, man. Thanks so much for the support to all of you. People, I'm calling this one. There's been a lot of videos today. I'm at 55 minutes. I really appreciate you. Listen up real quick before we go. I'm not going to call it. I thought I was going to call it. Hold on one second. Darn it. I have another case that we're going to be talking about, people. And I'm going to launch it out tomorrow. And it's the Shauna Gardner case out of Florida. What the hell's up with Florida, man? Seriously, if you're a Florida person here, no offense, but what is up with your state? This is another custody deal where parents can't work out a divorce and they start whacking each other. It's another murder for hire, right? And this time they're seeking the death penalty. This did not get this has not got the press that that the Charlie Adelson murder for hire case. Thank you so much. Yeah, there they are. That is the murderer and that's the wife and the husband. All right, people. Yes, the one on the left is Shauna. People, I can't do this tonight. I love you guys. We're doing this. I promise. This is the next one, but this is a wrap. I'm gonna eat, and then I got a couple of things I got to do before I go to bed. But listen, thank you for all the support, people. I really, really appreciate it. And if I have not sent you yep, that's another suspect in custody. If I have not responded to an email of yours, hold on. I'm a good 70 behind, but I'm getting there. All right. Thanks, everybody. I will see you on the next one. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. This right here is a cat in a basket. She scared the heck out of the poor kitty. Johnny, you look at Squirrel. You all right, Squirrel?
Hey, Squirrel.
You know what she wants? You want a treat? Come on. Let's go. She says, no chance. I'm sleeping. All right, people. See you on the next one. All right, Squirrel, lay back down then. No treat. You're good.